Okay, 7th graders, this is your practice test for the week. We're going to walk through it. You're going to solve all the problems. You're going to write out all the solutions, check your answers, make sure that you're good for the test on Friday. So let's take a look. Here is the test. This first problem should look very familiar. You've solved it once already. So I'm going to solve it differently. We solved it using the chart last night, but I want to solve it using algebra tonight. So we know that Jason spends $375. So I'm going to write $375. That's what he spends. And what does he spend it on? He spends it on washing his car. Okay, do we know how many seconds he washes his car? No, we don't. What we do know is that the time that it takes, this 60 seconds, he has to pay 1/4 for every 60 seconds. Okay? And so what we're trying to say is, how is he going to get to 375? So if 1/4 is 60 seconds, we could write that as a proportion. And we can say that it is 25 cents over 60 seconds. And what we're asking is, how long did it take him? Okay, and so this is our algebra equation. So we're going to go ahead and solve, and so we use cross products, and we do x times 25 cents gives me 0.25x is equal to, and 375 times 60, 375 times 60, I'm going to plug it into a calculator because I can, is 225. Okay, and really, on your test, I should see over here 3.75 times 60, and I should see the math worked out. Okay, be careful with your decimal. When you solve this out, you're going to need 2 decimal places. Okay, so now, to get x alone, we're going to divide by 0.25, and if we divide 225 by 0.25, we get x equals 900. Okay, so what is that? Again, remember, these are word problems. Just telling me x equals 900 doesn't tell me anything. You have to tell me what it means. So the answer to this problem is actually that it takes him 900 seconds. Okay, so it takes 900 seconds to wash the car. And if you wanted to convert this into minutes, you would want to divide by 60. And you would say that's 15 minutes. Okay? And this is my final answer, so I'm going to make sure that I've boxed it, showing all of my work. All right, so we're going to move on. And what I want to do is I want to scroll up so that you can see the next problem. This is the next problem on your paper. And so we're doing, the chart below is the speed of 4 printers. And we've had problems like this before. 55 pages per minute, 100 pages in 3 minutes, 1 page in 2 seconds, 0.75. That's not even a whole page. So 3/4 of a page per 1 second. Which printer is the fastest? Well, the first thing that we have to do is we have to decide to use the same denominator so that we can compare these guys. So I'm going to write them. We have 55 pages in 1 minute. That's the Express. I'm going to do the Speedy guy in red. And so Speedy is 100 in 3 minutes. And I'm going to change my pen color again and say that the Jet printer is 1 page in 2 seconds. Okay, and I probably should have put endings on my other problem. So I'm going to go back for a minute and say that this was minutes, and that the black one, which was from the Express printer, is in minutes as well. Okay, and then our last one, the fraction needs to be written in blue. So the fast print is 0.75 in 1 second. Okay, well, we kind of need to convert these guys. So we need to convert our 1 minute here and our 3 minutes into seconds so that we have equal comparable prints. So I'm going to go ahead and do the math, and I'm going to say that I'm going to deal with my first guy. And the Express printer, 55 pages per minute, well, if I want to convert that to seconds, in 1 minute, there's 60 seconds. So I can change that to say that it's 55 pages in 60 seconds. But of course, we want that unit rate. So really, to find the unit rate, I have to take the 55 and I have to divide it by the 60. So if I do the division for 55 over 60, I get 0.916 repeating over 1 second. Okay, and now I'm going to do the red guy, the Speedy Print guy, and he is 100 in 3 minutes. Well, 3 minutes, if I want to convert him to seconds, 3 minutes is 60 seconds plus 60 seconds plus 60 seconds. So 3 times 60 is 180. And this is now seconds. But again, I need unit rate. So I have to divide. 100 divided by 180 gives me 0.55 per 1 second. Okay, so 0.55 of a page, okay, in 1 second. Now the green one is in 2 seconds, so he's actually not in a unit rate either. So I need to fix him to make him in the unit rate. And so I had 1 over 2 seconds, but as a unit rate, it's 0.5 over 1 second. So think about it. This is 1/2. Okay, so if it's 1 page in 2 seconds, then he can do half of a page in 1 second. All right, and the blue guy is the guy that we can leave alone. And he is, he's 0.75 in 1 second. So we have to go back and figure out, now that we have them all in these unit rates, they're all in the same measurement, we have to go back and remind ourselves what we're looking for. Which printer is the fastest? So I have to know which one is the fastest. So the fastest means that I should get the most pages for my time. Okay, so which one is the biggest number? Well, if you look up here and you're comparing your rates, 0.75 is bigger than 0.5. It's also bigger than 0.55. So right now 0.75 is the biggest guy down here, but when you compare them up here, this one is actually almost a full page. So that one's actually the best. You get almost a full page in a second. So that's the black one. And so this Express printer is our fastest printer. Okay, but of course, there's a couple things I'm going to be looking for on this problem. I want all this work. Okay, you need to get out highlighters or colored pens. You absolutely can. Either that, or when you're working on your paper, you can title it. This is Express printer. This is Speedy printer. This is Jet printer. Okay, you can make yourself little notes so that you can solve it. And then you need to say, the fastest is Express printer. Okay, at 0.916 repeating pages per second. Okay, and then you would box this answer. All right, so that's how we're going to do it for the test tomorrow. I want to make sure that you show all of this work in a logical fashion. I used color coding, but if you don't have color coding, then you want to put all of your Express printer work together, all of your Speedy printer work together. I should see where you did your conversions and how you figured it out. All right, so our last page, our last problem is this bicycle problem. And if you look up here, it's telling us that we're using scale, which we talked about a few weeks ago. So the actual height of the bicycle is 4 feet tall. Okay, a real bicycle is 4 feet tall. Use the scale drawing to find the actual length of a bicycle. So if we had a real bicycle, it's going to be much bigger, right? And I'm not going to attempt to really draw a real bicycle, but there he is, and we know that his height is 4 feet. Okay, so we need to set up these proportions so that we can use what we know and solve. So I'm going to say that I have height to length. And so height to length is 3 inches to 6 inches. And my real height is 4 feet. So I want to know my real length. So I'm going to use cross products. And I'm going to say 3 times x is 3x, which is equal to 6 times 4, which is 24. And I'm going to divide by 3 to get my x alone. And I have x is equal to 8. Again, what is it? 8 what? What are we talking about? We're talking about the length of this real bicycle from here to here. And the real bicycle was measured in 4 feet tall. So that must mean that the bicycle is 8 feet long. Okay, and we will box our answer. All right, we're going to move on to the next page. All right, here's our last page. Our first problem on the last page is talking about direct variation. Okay, still using those proportions, still using multi-step problems, still solving for x. So we have to set it up and we have to solve it. Mr. Thompson needs enough grass seed to cover 1,200 square foot lawn and a 3,000 square foot lawn. So if he needs enough to cover both, and the word and is in there, and means addition in math. Okay, so if 60 ounces of grass seed will seed a 2,400 square foot lawn, how many ounces does he need to seed both lawns? So the ratio that they gave us is this 60 ounces to 2,400 square feet. So we're going to write it. 60 ounces to 2,400 square feet squared is equal to, and we want to know how many, we're trying to solve for how many ounces. That means my variable is up on the numerator for ounces, and it has to cover both of his lawns, which was really 1,200 one lawn and 3,000 for the other lawn. So it has to cover 4,200 feet squared. So that's what we put in our denominator. And now I need to cross multiply and divide. So 4,200 times 60 looks like a terrible problem to do, but really it's got all those zeros, so it should be very easy for you to do it in your head. You have 3 zeros, 1, 2, 3, and 6 times 2 is 12, carry my 1, and 6 times 4 is 24 plus 1 is 25, and that's going to be equal to the 2,400 times the x. And now to get x alone, I have to divide both sides by 2,400. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say this makes an equivalent form of 1, so I'm left with an x. Now if I divide both sides by 10, or both of if I divide the fraction by 10 over 10, I lose a 0. If I divide it by 10 over 10 again, I lose another 0. Okay, and so I'm going to do some math over off to the side so that I don't ruin my problem. And I'm going to say that I have 2,520 over 24. Okay, and remember we're trying to get how many ounces he needs, right? So it needs to be a number. So I'm just going to divide it. I'm going to say that this is really 2,520 divided by 24. 24 goes into 25 once. 24 goes into 12 0 times. And 24 goes into 120. Let's think about it for a second. 5 times. And 5 times 4 is 20. Carry my 2. 5 times 2 is 10 plus 2 is 12. Okay? So it went in 105 times. So what does that mean x is? What did I solve for? I solved for how many ounces. It's up here. I underlined it. So this x, 105, really means he needs 105 ounces of seed. And I'm going to box my answer. Okay? Now we're going to move on to the next problem. Okay, these are our two-step with integers, okay, integers, and there are inequalities. So the things that you have to remember about inequalities are that there is a shading component to them, there's a check component to them, and if you multiply or divide by a negative, you need to flip the sign. So we're going to add 18 to both sides to get our x alone. I'm left with a 2x on the left is greater than or equal to, and negative 4 plus 18 is a positive 14. I'm going to divide both sides by 2 to get my x alone. X is greater than or equal to 7. So this is my x value. That's what goes here on my number line. Okay, now I have to say, what do I need? What do I need on my number line? I really need a dot to mark that 7. Is it going to be an open circle or a closed circle? It should be a closed circle because it's an equal to. And now I need some extra numbers on my number line. So smaller than 7 is on the left, and I can put a 0. And larger than 7 would be on the right, and I'm going to put a 10. And now I have to read my problem. X is greater than or equal to 7. Where is the numbers greater than 7? It's the numbers to the right. So I need to shade in the direction of the right. And now I need to do a check. And so let's do our check here. And I always start with my original problem, which was 2x minus 18 greater than or equal to negative 4. Okay? And I'm going to plug in not this value that I solved. I'm going to plug in the value that I shaded towards. So I'm going to say 2 times 10 minus 18 is greater than or equal to negative 4. I'm solving. 2 times 10 is 20. I'm just writing the rest of my problem out so that I have it. 20 minus 18 is 2. And then I have greater than or equal to negative 4. Is this true? If I have 2 on a number line, is it greater than negative 4? Well, where would negative 4 be? You'd have a 1, you'd have a 0, so negative 4 would be over here. Is 2 greater than negative 4? Yes, it is. So I've checked my problem and I know it's correct. Okay, we're going to move on to the next problem. Alex wants to buy an Xbox 360 and as many games as he can. The Xbox costs $280 and each game costs $45. If Alex has 415, how many games can he buy? Okay, so he wants to buy the Xbox and a whole bunch of games. Okay, but he only has $415. So tell me, can he spend, I'm going to give you a clue. This up here says, this up here says inequalities, which means that your answer is an inequality. It's not an equal to equation. Okay, so knowing that it's an inequality, we have to ask ourselves, what sign do we use? Well, we know he has this 415, so everything has to somehow equal that, be less than that, or greater than that. So what symbol? So I'm going to start with that number, $415. Now, can he spend more? When he buys his games and his Xbox, can he spend more than 450? No, he has to spend 415 or less. So we need that to say that. $415 is going to be greater than or equal to his Xbox plus the games. Okay, now this isn't the official equation. This is how I work out finding the official equation. Okay, so 415 has to be the greatest amount of money that he has, or he can spend less. So if you read it the other way, the Xbox and the games are less than or equal to 415. Okay, now let's add our numbers in. So we have our 415. We have the sign we need. And we know the Xbox costs $280. We know we're adding it to the games. So think about it for a minute. If he buys one game, you would put a 45 here. If he buys 2 games, you would put a 90 there. So what are you doing? You're taking the game, the number of games, and you're multiplying it by 45. So you're saying if he buys 1 game and X is 1, then you would have 45. If X is 2 for 2 games that he buys, then you would have 90 in that spot. Okay, so this is actually our equation. And so to write it just a little bit more neatly, and of course box my answer. I would not necessarily show the multiplication sign. Okay, and that's the answer for this part A, but now we have to solve it. So I'm going to say that 415 is greater than or equal to 280 plus 45x, and I'm going to get my x alone. So I'm going to add a negative 280 to both sides, and I end up with 135 is greater than or equal to 45x. I'm going to divide by 45, and I'm going to get that x, and my sign stays the same because I'm not multiplying or dividing by a negative number. And so 135 divided by 45 is 3. Okay, so this is my 3. That's what I solved for when I got x. What does it mean? What did he do? Well, it means x was the number of games. So he can buy, it says 3 is greater than or equal to x. So can he buy 4 games? No, he can't. Can he buy 3.5 games? No. Can he buy 2 games? Yes. Can he buy 1 game? Yes. So we're going to say Alex can buy up to 3 games. Okay? Or you could say he could buy 3 games or less. Okay, there's lots of ways to kind of write it. All right, let's move on to the next page. Oh, that's it. We're done. Yay. Okay, good luck tomorrow on your test.